I'm so grateful to be able to be here with you, and share. And yeah, it's true. My inner reality is fairly unusual, and I am often careful of where I share because it can seem so out there that people's eyes glaze over, or they think that I'm full of shit, or just, or they don't have any reference point for what I'm speaking about, and so there's just no landing place. So I just sound like I'm from another planet or something. So I would love to invite you to open on a deeper level, and that what tends to happen when I'm sharing is that as I continue to speak from a deeper place, that truth comes out in a transmission and can be received. So I've often heard people say, who've been in my classes for years, to a newcomer, "Oh, don't listen to anything she says," which was shocking to me. I understood what I was saying, but to rest in the deeper level of information that's coming through. So I'd love to just take a moment and be quiet, and then I'll start sharing more. So that was a short moment. So I want to just speak from this just total enthusiasm that I have, in that no one has been teaching us like what we really are. Like in my childhood, or it's just the unfolding that's happened here has been so kind of mind-blowing. Let me just take another moment. What I'm really interested in today is supporting each of you, opening up into your heart in a way that you may not have opened up before, or recognize what you are. My awakening process has gone through all these layers of consciousness in a highly detailed way. So when awareness first woke up through to a larger capacity, there was an access of the past life memory of many experiences that came forward in a very full-bodied cultural memory, remembering of temperature, of food, of sensation, just full memory. And so the surrendering through conditioning needed to happen here through this lifetime and through all the ones that were remembered. And in my experience, the past life experience doesn't have to be a contradiction to anything. The way I experience it is we're one singular consciousness organizing itself in multiplicity. And so each of you is a gorgeous expression of this one singular truth that we all are. And so for oneness to organize itself, to have individual experience, to taste itself, it has to create a sense of differentiation. And so there are these lenses of consciousness that are created as these vehicles for one singular truth to land in and as and perceive and experience and express. And that it's a biofeedback loop of one singular truth through and as each of you back to you yourself as the one. And in this unfolding for me, it didn't stop with this past life organization of experience. It opened up on a larger level where there began to be the memory of co-creating this world and co-creating what we all are, and this whole game board of existence that we're playing in, that one singular truth has manifested and is manifesting itself in and through and as to play and experience and taste and evolve itself. And so I experience each of you as this stunning individual resonance sound, this utterance of God, which you are. So you are God, and you are God singing yourself into being, into flesh. And your flesh is singing, and the chairs are singing. Everything is completely alive and conscious. And we forget this. And forgetting is perfect in terms of consciousness exploring itself. If you remembered this totality all the time, you would not get to have the experiences that you're having. So there's a perfection in your falling asleep, and there's a perfection in your waking. And there's a perfection in waking and sleeping, back and forth. So in this realization, there's an incredible freedom that occurs, an incredible reverence and love for everything and everyone. And there's a stepping into a recognition, a realization of the creative capacity that you are as God, as a soul, as a human being. And those layers of consciousness then collapse themselves, and they're all true here now. Part of the brilliance of this whole unfolding is there's a profound level of humility that's required for a God to show up as a human being. I'll say that again. There's a profound level of humility for a God to show up as a human being and have human experiences and have your heart break open and have limbs torn. I mean, all sorts of horrifying things happen in this unfolding creation that we are. And so for me, in this authenticity of the heart, remembering myself as a God self, creating the soul, creating the human lifetimes, that in the remembering of that, there's a humility that comes all the way through, but it goes in both directions. And so that authenticity is knowing the heart of this divine truth that is impeccable and unbreakable. And at the same time being a human being that has your heart break open every moment if you're listening. And so we are this truth of this absolute divine brilliance. And we are this human being, and they're actually the same thing. Part of what I'm really, really interested in the political climate that we're in, is that the more of us that wake up and remember what we truly are, the more we step into humility, respect, reverence, capacity to create, recognition that you are influencing the field. You as a human being are a God. God is human. And when you wake up to this truth, everything changes. And you can bow in every direction in total love and respect and honesty and intrinsic capacity to influence. So it's not about power over or manipulation or judgment or control. There's a deep, deep difference of resting in the heart where love and power are not separate. Part of the play of the manifestation is to get to experience all these nuances that actually arise out of a singularity. So you get to have the nuance of love or the nuance of power, the nuance of masculine, the nuance of feminine. And those expressions are divine play, and we get to embody and play and experience and taste. And in through all that expression and tasting, consciousness refines itself. And there's a self-discovery of being both the uniqueness that each of you are, that is special beyond anything, because there's only one of that uniqueness that you are. No one can do it better than you. And so there's this reverence for the individuation, for the exquisiteness, and embodiment and of the totality where you're everything. There have been gorgeous discussions about masculinity and femininity and divine masculine, divine feminine, all throughout this this retreat. And we all know that that masculine and feminine is intrinsic to each of us. That it doesn't matter what your gender is, that on the inside, you're that unified truth. And the more you surrender through into that truth in yourself, the more balanced and whole and embracing you are of everything. And then the love and the power aren't separate from each other. And grace is intrinsic to your movements and your expressions. So that's basically the heart of what I was really wanting to share. And to invite people to open in through yourself, whether you do that here or you do that at home or on your flight or car ride, to just open that possibility that you are so unbelievably amazing. I have had no idea, absolutely no idea. And when the opening to the past lives came out, that was pretty amazing to me. To have experiences as men and women and different races and time periods and all of that, and have that be my lived experience. But to then open on this next level and see that we are all that, and we are all co-creating this, and that is what wants to come through. And when that comes through, we behave differently. We recognize this capacity for change. And another aspect of this just brilliant creation that we are, we're often speaking about the individuated experience, our sense of self waking up to the one self, and then surrendering through that when there's no self. In the experience that's happened here, that envelope of self became permeable to then discover all the other permeable boundaries. So trees, rocks, the rug, sky, birds, all have their own contained sense of individuation for the same one singular truth that we all are. And for me, the fluidity of that I am then became fluid through all these different layers. So I will walk through the woods and the consciousness of plants reveal themselves to me, sharing what medicine they offer. Or walking through the gem show in Tucson, I was drunk with the consciousness of all these brilliant gems, downloading their brilliance into me as I walked by. And when we start to open, that this isn't, I don't see this as some superpower. I see this as humanity. And this is how we're all made. Right? And I'm seeing some people shaking their heads like, right, I know that, right? And whether you're open to that now and experiencing that, or have an inkling of that, or this sounds like, some other weird language, right? It's accessible. It doesn't matter where you are on that scale. We're human beings, and we are profound, incredible creations. And the brain, people still have only a fraction of an understanding of what's happening. But when you start opening through all these layers in yourself, your brain starts functioning differently, and you can feel it. And the body starts changing, the chemistry starts changing. And so when we open through this stunningness, we are both the individuated expression in manifestation, and we are the whole playing field. We're the whole game board. And so you start to open up to the brilliance of everything. Someone was sharing with me, I didn't get to hear the talk, but about the bees and the mushrooms and in the conversation that I was having, there's a recognition that the mushrooms can't do it alone, the bees can't do it alone, the humans can't do it alone. We're one consciousness. We are one consciousness manifesting in this exquisite display in play with itself. And so this is what's happening as we step into that and recognize that's what we are. That's how the political climate is going to change. That's how the earth is going to change. When we recognize that and recognize that's what we are. I am the earth. I am that being. Right? And I'm also this individuated, divine, walking creature that gets to play and experience and influence and change. So maybe I'll open for questions if anyone has any. Yeah.
Thank you for your beautiful talk. How did you come to your understanding?
The understanding that's present now wasn't present in the initial part of my awakening. So one of the things that has been a gift for me is not having a teacher and not having a tradition. So I didn't have any rules. I didn't have any limitations. And any time I was in the presence of a teacher and asked a question, they could never answer my questions. And so the universe at play continued the setup that the answers had to come from surrendering. And so everything has then become a curiosity. In the earlier surrendering phases, I was surrendering to different emotions of things that would come up, attachments, ideas. And then whatever came up in the field of awareness was interesting to me. So there was suddenly an awareness of a sense of will. And so there was a surrendering through will to start seeing a larger game board, a larger will, a larger play. Or recognizing there was a sense of tracking. Internally, I would track, where did that emotion come from? Where is that arising from? And so then that sense of tracking, oh, what's that? Surrendering through tracking and coming into a higher frequency divine compass of creation, organizing itself to direct its players along the game board. Oh, this feels like that's where I need to go. That inner compass, oh, I need to go. And over there, and why? They go over there. Right? So things that just seemed like our basic intrinsic way of functioning, all of those things start to come up in awareness. Ooh, what's that? And so the surrendering has just continued and keeps opening through these larger and larger aspects. I'd like to add something to this too. I'm speaking a lot about the multiplicity, the expression out from that which we can't see. And so every time there was a surrendering through a learn, there's a surrendering through what I call a cessation point, where the perceiver itself, the tracker, the recognition, the understanding, the perceptual body that's functioning has to surrender itself through itself. And it can feel like dying, not existing. All reference points go, there's nothing. I spoke about it as nothing in the beginning. And what has been happening throughout this process is every time I surrender through, there's a surrendering through that cessation point. And that is consistent. So even opening up on these larger levels, that aspect of consciousness still can't see back from which it arises. And so nothingness is always present because the field of perception, the vehicle of being, the lens that one singular truth has created to then project itself into and as to experience, that has to surrender itself back. And so the lived experience now is living all of those vehicles, the personality level, the soul level, this God self level, which I experienced in between the soul and God. I'm just making up language to describe my experience, and that all of that which that arises from. When we say God, so then there's, because I recognize that too, there's a relationship of being a child of God. Like that's the experience of the truth. And let me clarify, God, in my experience, is the same singular I am of everything else. And that it's all an organizing principle. And so that as you surrender through that I and surrender through that nothingness and that cessation point, one might rest in that and then proceed through whatever vehicle consciousness is resting in. But that can surrender back to another larger vehicle of consciousness. I have not had the experience here of opening up as God. There have been little windows and moments of opening through God's mind and seeing that we are 3D dreaming. We are God's 3D dream, and that the dreaming is the same thing. An idea, creation of a plane, so I've seen universes being created and then projecting oneself into it, projecting, creating God selves, creators, which then projects and creates souls, and then humans in this game board. So I'm seeing all these levels at the same time. And again, if my language is like pissing you off or like triggering deep things around religion, I am just simply doing my best to describe an experience, and the truth is in each of you. So if I say something that doesn't resonate as truth to you, you know the truth. I don't. You know the truth. You are this totality, resting, experiencing in the uniqueness and perfection of your own legs. So I recognize the brilliance of that. But I wanted to bring it back just a little bit to the nothingness, because that mystery from which we all arise from always remains. Every time there's awakening to another level, the mystery is still there, because then you still can't see what's behind like that.
Just a quick question. I had the experience of seeing the magnificence in everything that I see. And when I try to explain that to someone, they say, no, you have your head in the sand. What about all these negative things and all of this, and people that are mistreated, and blah, blah, blah. How could you even think of that? I'm still trying to find the words to try to explain to them how to do that.
What's your question? How to explain why there's
how to explain the magnificence, the unfoldment of the universe that we live in, when, through political ways, people say, oh no, it's all messed up and everything's broken. And I just don't see that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at just one level, it can be hard to see. But that's why everyone's here, because everyone's interested in something deeper. So the invitation is to just keep surrendering into the deeper truth, and that inner compass will guide you, because it's there. So truth in one place says go study with a teacher, truth in another place says go swimming. Okay. It's that truth. We each get to be that unique expression of that with brilliance. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other? Yeah.
So, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Kristen. Thank you. So what you present is extremely intriguing. The question that comes up for me, and I hope I can say this, articulate this well, but my question is, what is working with you like for someone who, might want to...
I'm sorry, just a couple of words. What is working with?
What is working with you like? In other words, as someone who might want to sign up for something, or, sort of get involved in some fashion or other with, with what you do.
There are different ways to connect with me. And it's different for every person. Initially, I was doing one-on-one healing sessions because when I'm opening, I'm seeing people on the soul level. I'm seeing their karma. I'm seeing their DNA. I'm seeing the astrology and how that is all one gorgeous kaleidoscopic reality. Right? This mandala that then spreads itself out. And so there's working with an individual person, supporting the dissolving of conditioning and being with whatever they were bringing forward. And I'm working more now in doing a group healing, where I'm still seeing that, but I'm seeing it in a more contained way. So I'll be in a soul classroom where I'm seeing everyone's soul, and there are lesson plans happening in the soul level at the same time as my mouth is saying different words to people. And that, so part of what's happening now is there's a teaching on the soul level to support the evolution of humanity, so that the skill set here isn't something that's like, that I'm just like helping tossing out fish kind of thing, right? Of teaching people on these deeper levels how to awaken themselves in through these layers of consciousness. So my retreats and healing sessions are in support of reminding people of this magnificence that we are. There's a transmission that comes through, and there's healing sessions that's sort of present throughout the retreat, or in the live stream classes that I'm doing. It's the same thing. There's like a transmission that comes through in the words, and sometimes I'll do live streams that are dedicated just as a healing session. Did that answer the question?
Well, partly you, as a healing session, but also you say you're working on the soul level. So I'm not quite sure. What that's about.
So in terms of one singular consciousness organizing itself, I see it organizing itself when it comes manifested a next layer. There's more differentiation. There's more variety. So the soul then, how do I say this? So in your soul exploration, one singular truth with a unique soul is doing a particular exploration. And so there are all these lifetimes. They get to be the playground for exploring. And so working on the soul level, it's a deeper level of organization of your consciousness. So as opposed to healing the grief from one life when that happened, or grief in this life when that happened, working on the soul level is looking at the whole patterning. What is that soul exploration? It's exploring grief in through this patterned way. Well, so let's shift the pattern. The other thing that's been happening, I did just do a session. There was a gift to someone, and so I got to see in a more specific way, and we were looking at all the karma and seeing the soul's interpretation of the karma. All those details, the soul's interpretation of it. And as our systems met each other in a deep, full way with all the support that comes in, this being was recognizing that there could be a different interpretation of the karma. And so the whole soul started to shift. All these I'll see these lattice work of light grids of this unified mind and the cross points of where an experience happened, identification held, and then there's a little density that gets held as a treasure chest to open later, to reveal what wasn't fully discovered in that moment of the interaction. And so I was seeing this person with all those little contraction points and seeing those dissolving and shifting. And the soul itself started to recognize itself in a different way. And a whole new probability was actually then generated because the soul wasn't experiencing its karma in the same way. So the karma started to shift and dissolve, but there was a whole new possibility for this person in their lifetime that wasn't there when I was looking at it, a half hour earlier. So.
Just one more question. Do people, are you organized to to sort of consult with the individual one-on-one and recommend a way to sort of move ahead with you or to interact with you. I'm just trying to get a sense of how I would potentially figure out what was the best way to try to interact with you.
Sure. At the moment, because I'm wanting to write some books, my time for being of service in that way is limited. The way that I'm being of support is through retreats. I do 2 retreats in Kauai, 1 in Sedona. I have a day long in Berkeley on Saturday.
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night. Oh, yeah, Tuesday night's a stop time, short one, but there's a full. We have more space on the Saturday one. When I'm doing the live stream classes, I have my computer there with people to email. So you can email your question. I feel your consciousness. I see the whole thing, and I respond directly to people's questions during the class. I'm also doing a year-long program of a 2-hour phone call once a month that's limited to 20 people. There's still a few spaces in that, so that's a direct dialogue also.
Okay, thank you.
And at some point I might come up with another way for one-on-one, but so that in those avenues there is a way to have one-on-one contact. And actually all of those avenues there's a way for one-on-one contact.
Thank you.
KristenKirk.com.
Oh,
Is the website.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, in view of your overview of becoming in terms of spiritual matters, and I suppose generally within life, how do you see the role of a gathering like this? Do you see the implications of what's happening here in this gathering? Do you have an overview of that? Or do you have something?
Clarify the question. In this room here in relation to me, or stand in relation to the world?
How you the whole stand gathering,
Yeah.
and how you see the value of that
Yeah.
gathering.
Yeah.
Overall spiritual development.
Awesome question.
Yeah.
So it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Right? And when we recognize the earth as a living body, and the earth having its own acupuncture points and meridians where energy moves and flows, we all know pyramids are in a really potent spot. Hawaii is a really potent spot, right? We know these potent Ayers Rock, right? We know these potent spots. And as human beings, as part of the one singular truth, we get to create potent spots. And so sand is a potent spot, right? So where this consciousness comes together in the interest of waking itself up, and you have all these just stunning, brilliant beings running around, right? All communicating, little bees, right? All sharing each other's brilliance with each other. That the field gets amplified. Everyone in the field gets. It's not 1 plus 1, right? The mathematics. That's the other thing. I also see everything as mathematics and geometry, all superimposed with all this. So then the mathematics of all of us coming together is exponentially transformative for each individual and also the planet, and serves and heals the planet in through that. Thank you so much. Thank you so